Hey guys, welcome to my shop. My name is Doug. This is episode 2, if you want to call it that, or chapter 2 of the Abom 79 hydraulic jack challenge. Today we're going to take apart this jack and get some ideas as to what's involved in the challenge for Adam. And as he's already responded with some comments about the jack and what the potential problems are. And as he points out, he's not an engineer, but I think we can work through those problems because some of the principles are actually pretty straightforward. But I think the hydraulic ram and the pistons inside that make it work to go up at a fairly fast rate are where some of the issues are going to be a concern, and also how we're going to meet them. And we'll go into the body and the detail of the hydraulic ram itself, and the reservoir, and the pistons inside, and the valves that control the hydraulic ram itself. Now, last video I used a couple terms interchangeably when I shouldn't have. On these jacks, the main shaft is a ram, and of course there are pistons inside, in which this is actually going to move the jack up and down through the piston sleeve that will push fluid into the main body, up and past the needle valves, which are one-way valves in the needles, past the check ball, allows the fluid to go into the ram piston or sleeve itself, where the jack ram is, inside the cylinder. And of course, when you turn it, there's another valve that when you clockwise tighten to make sure no fluid gets out when you're pushing it up, and of course when you relieve the pressure, the valve opens and allows the fluid to go back into the reservoir. So we'll go into detail on that a little bit more as I tear apart this jack. And then also for a lot of guys that do buy jacks just for utility use in the shops and that sort of thing, I'll go over my other jack as well and what you should look for in a all-purpose jack. So with that, let's start tearing apart this jack, okay? Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just closed the garage door. It's a beautiful day out here. Have a nice springtime, but it's a little windy out, and things were starting to bang around. I didn't want that making some noise in the background for you guys. So without further ado, let's start tearing apart this jack. We'll start by just taking off the basics here. I've already taken off the top extension, and we'll just put this over here where the rest of my junk is, and start tearing it apart. Now, just to save time, I've already started to, I've used all these nuts off in advance. But as I mentioned, this thing is a pretty nice jack from this perspective. It's completely capable of being taken apart. And in the racing community, that's what we want. We don't like things that are not easy to repair, and that just makes it easier on us. So, and that's a ram valve, part of the scissor. We'll have to leave that mounted for a minute, and we'll take the spring off, and then we'll proceed with the this is an all-metric jack, and so we're using 5mm, I think, Allen T-head, and a 4, and then a 17mm wrench for the side of the socket, and then the real big guy that I just did was a 22. So let's speed this up a bit for you guys. And I mentioned about these wheels in the back that maybe Adam can machine some up for us. And as you know, there's not a lot of clearance here, so to go wider might be a challenge. But these arms, these wings, they're also bolted onto the frame. So maybe we can entice Adam to make some arms out. We'll take these off later, and we can make it wider, and then you can put as wide a wheel in here as we can. And all they are is just a bolt with a with a nylon nut on it. So, but we put these jacks through hell, so not surprising there how that's unfolded. Okay, that's pretty much now folded apart at this side. And I'm going to go through why I like this Reservoir style. A lot of guys are going to say, well, the faster way to get the jack up is to put a twin piston in here on this, and that's how a lot of the guys with these cheap ones go. But I've always kind of believed that, you know, when you start getting into twin pistons and everything else, you're creating double the problems. And I get a little worried about that, to be honest. So that's something to be aware of. And you know what? There was one guy here I didn't even pay attention to here. So I'm going to need my other socket here. I don't think this is the right one. It's not. It's probably going to be a 13 mil. And it is. So let's see if I can quickly break this. My wrist is not in great shape right now. Oh, that was hard. I don't like over tightening things when I don't have to, of course. I'll just make sure it's not turning. These are all nylon nuts, so they should be replaced every time you use them, but just a washer and a nut there. Okay. And then we got this guy here, which is the last support, which I have a return for. Probably got a socket for that too, but they're just nylon nuts, so nothing big here. A lot of the other jacks that you see in the market that are low cost, Harbor Freight, Princess Auto, that sort of thing, they are not take apart as easy as these are. And that's a problem for a lot of guys. So now, how are we going to do this here? There's that part of the body off. And then I've got, oh, I forgot one more little thing here. I apologize. That's what this little screw is. There's snap rings in here. And I actually do have a snap ring tool. So I guess I should get that out. Which I did forget about. There we are. Sorry guys, just give me a little bit of a challenge getting it in there, but I never said it was going to be easy, that's for sure. That is not going to make that any easier. So let's... Actually, I remember this from last time now. That. Let's see if we can maybe get this clip from the other side here. Just move the C-clip around. It's just basically a snap ring. You just gotta lean up against something here. Maybe swing it around. Get it across here. That'll help. Getting it from above. Look at that. That'll definitely help our angle a little bit to get in here. There we go. Well, almost had it. I got the light for you guys and forgot to put here. Of course, you want to do it on camera, and that's when the worst time it wants to happen to get it off. There we go. I recall the last time I did this, hard part's going to be, hard part's not going to be getting it in there. Hard part's going to be, oh, of course, I did the snap ring that I don't need off right away, but that figures. Don't worry, we'll get it off anyways. it should slip right out, which it did. There's one side off. And we will actually save ourselves some grief by taking this off right now. Okay. Adam keeps on mentioning about his tools from his grandfather. This is one of my grandfather's pliers. Everything was utility back in those days. There we go. And put that there for now. And then we'll undo the rest of these now, and that we're making headway here. And one of the reasons I like this jack is, at least this particular style, is the way all the aluminum, if you're going to build aluminum, they've made the mounting surfaces as wide as possible, which is really important. So you gotta think about that when you're buying a jack for racing, because you do have stability issues, and so we just don't want those kind of problems with us when we're at the track. The last thing we want to focus on is worrying about the maintenance and the challenges of your jack. The trade-off, of course, is cost. Like I say, real racing jacks, the ones that can do up and you can get a car up in the air in one go, one swing of the arm. Those are the cheapest full spring cup jack I've seen, are $3,500 or more. And the ones even for high-end racing, the guys that are running CRA and super late model and everything else, some of those guys are running jacks $950 to $1,300, and that just gets out of our price range. It really does. So okay, we'll get the roller off. Hey Adam, want to build one of these? Just kidding, this one's in pretty good shape. And that's where it can get pricey. So as you can see, it didn't take me long to take this apart. You know, this thing was apart pretty quick. There's your frame. That's how fast it goes. It's not hard at all. And again, overall maintenance is pretty straightforward. So look at that, 5 minutes, the whole thing's apart. Takes me just long. So again, these bodies are very straightforward. Again, here's the 3 bolts that hold these side wings on. Maybe we can get out and machine something up a little wider, and then we can put a nice big, same diameter wheel, but just wider. And that just gives us a little more stability and support. So we got 2 pieces here. Very straightforward. I'm going to leave that C-clip in there for now. This is your locking mechanism for your shaft. Again, all these pins, you can see it's very easy to repair and fix. Not difficult. So now what we got left now is the main body. I'll take this main shaft out. And you got the 2 lever arms. And you got these 2 C-clips, and that's it. Which hold this main body into the main shaft here. The back support, so you can leave those alone. And then you pull this out, and here's the 2 other levers. So as you can see, there's the leverage is very straightforward. This ram comes out, you push it in like that, it's going to force this whole mechanism up because of the scissor lift. So again, very straightforward. That's the holder for the spring for keeping pressure on it. There's one C-clip off, very straightforward. Let's do the other one now. Oops. There we go. Swing it around. Very handy having these tools around. Oops. Came close. I keep the 2 sets. These are wider diameter. And then you just gotta jiggle it a little bit for clearance tolerances. Get this out. There's one. There we go. And there's your main assembly. So here's the hydraulics we're talking about. And again, very straightforward. There you can see from here, There's just a locking cap seal. There's a underneath it, and then of course the ram's inside. And then we've got the main spring. And then these are the two slots for the valve, the check valves, as I was telling you about. And then there is the safety valve adjustment, which they say do not adjust. And then of course then you've got the breathing screw, and that allows the air to go back and forth to let it in. And then this one's for your fluid reservoir. And then this is a C-clip here. You can see holds the main rod that goes into the piston, which pushes down, gets fluid in, goes through past the check balls, and gets in there. Now I mentioned something about why I like this body. And you'll notice it's nice and flush, so that when you put it against there, it's part of the whole frame, and therefore it makes it impossible for this to have some play. And I like that. You'll notice on some of the other jacks that are available out there, they don't have this coming through. Now I suspect one of the reasons they did that is to have more fluid. There's space. I bet you if I cut this out, or cut it apart, it's hollow. And that's where a lot of the fluid is for the reservoirs going in and out, because there's not a lot of space in here. And of course, coming through here, like I said, it centers it. It makes sure that it comes through, and you got a little more solid support off the back, because it is, part of the rigidity of the jack. If you just had it flush with bolts, I'm not saying that that's wrong, and you can get definitely higher grade Allen bolts than these. Probably get grade 8, grade 10, and you can make sure it's tough. But these are aluminum threads, so you've got to have, not too much tension, or you strip the threads on the body. So they're a nice size. Looks like they're a National Fine Course. I don't know what pitch they are. But again, this is it's probably not National Fine. It's probably metric. So there you go. But these are some of the challenges Adam will have to go through. And I'm going to get my micrometer here now to double check what that piston size is. Well, and of course I'm never ready. Now I've got two styles of calipers. Again, these are just metric calipers, or sorry, standard calipers. I've got the mechanical style, just the dial, much like Adam's Starrett's. And then of course I do have an electronic one. But I have started to stay away from these electronic ones for a reason. And that is because the measurement guide, there's no teeth on it at all. And it's measuring right off distance through a sensor. While as these, it's actually geared right into the mechanism on the inside. I don't know if you can see that on the inside here, but you can see that there's teeth inside here, and that's what it's picking up. So I prefer these for accuracy, but to each their own. These are, the electronic ones. They're okay, but they don't have inside here a gear mechanism at all. They just have a slide, and I've looked inside here, and you'll notice there's no teeth inside that slide there. So I get a little leery just how accurate these really are, and so I've stopped using it because I have noticed difference. 10 thou is no longer just the discrepancy. It's like sometimes 20 to 30 thou. So I've started to use these, and they've been accurate all the time. So the size of this ram, it is under an inch, like we talked about before. It's 9/83 of an inch. That's what we got there. So, and the length of this, and again, I have to take it fully apart. I'll have to, in the next video, maybe I'll take this whole shaft apart if Adam wants me to. But the rough estimate distance of this going in here is going to be, just an estimate, it's going to be 4 inches and 4.460. And let's see here. The piston, the rod that comes down and goes into here is 590 of an inch. You know what? It's just under 590. Oh, you know what? It's over. It's 591 now. Yep, 591. And you'll notice, I'll take this a little closer to you. I don't know if you can see that very well. I don't know if you can see that very well. But you'll see that there's a nut here as well. And I think that's just holding it in, and of course gives it some shoulder support on that piston. But the stroke of that is obviously not very long, getting into plunge the fluid going into the ram. The maximum stroke that this is going to go down is one, because that spring is going to bind, if I'm lucky, 1.183. So barely over an inch does this go into the reservoir to shove fluid in it. And again, that's what I was talking about earlier. Obviously, you're going to have faster action if you had two pistons pushing twice the amount of volume of fluid into the main ram cylinder, which forces up the main hydraulic jack ram post. So there's a couple ways to tackle this, of course. But part of the problem that we have to always consider is how do we deal with the check balls and the fluid if we have two rams. And that's why I'm thinking for Adam, if he takes on the challenge, is that we need a bigger piston or a bigger rod that drives the fluid into the main ram. So you get more volume, therefore you get more speed. But we do have limitations, both in the size of the actual body and the amount of fluid that's in it. Now there's ways to get around that. Again, Adam could actually make a whole new body if he wanted to. And given the constraints of how this fits in here, with the rod and where the mounts are and everything else, we know what the measurements have to be for this distance. But that doesn't imply we can't go with a thinner wall here. You may want to use a different material. But again, we'd like to stay with aluminum because of the fact that's what helps to keep it light. But it's interesting off the back because we can reassemble it for Adam if he wants to right away. But this style of jack for width is, I think, where we can maybe make some headway. Width in the sense that we can make a wider piston or rod in here, of course, for the ram to work, giving more fluid in the ram here. But again, that'll be up to Adam to kind of figure out whether he wants to design it that way. Now, this is not engineering really, it's just the principle of the more fluid you have and the bigger that rod is going to be pushing fluid into the main ram, the faster it's going to go. The other thing too, though, is we have to be careful to think about is just the valves where the needles are. And I'll see if I can pull up a diagram for you how that works. Obviously, those check valves and the ball and the seat for it, the wider those openings are, the more fluid can get past there quickly on a single stroke. Part of it's going to be limited by the simple fact of the size of it. So anyway, there we go. There's kind of the teardown of the jack. Again, we're going to have to go back and forth, Adam and I, trying to figure out what maybe a game plan could look like, what the obstacles are going to be. You know, this looks simple, but this is not your typical style of doing a jack in the sense of engineering something new, because we're not really trying to re-engineer the design. It is a good design, it's just that, of course, for the amount of throw we got, we're getting very small output to the jack. But there's ways we can fix that. But there are, you know, there are limitations on some of these jacks. So can we overcome them is the trick. Not going to be easy, but I don't think Adam wants an easy challenge. He wants something that maybe can be. He certainly, with that welding table, blew me away with the tolerances and specifications and capabilities he's put into that welding table. And the Saturday Night Special episode 63, he used it for display, and boy, was that amazing. That's a big table. I don't think I'd be able to even put that in the shop here. I would never do justice to it. But again, this is a challenge for Adam to see if he can tackle it. And let's see what he comes back with some questions. We'll probably take a couple weeks just to figure out, you know, what some of the challenges we need to look into. He did mention, you know, maybe getting one. So that's the next thing we'll talk about on jacks. I would not recommend something like this for Adam's use in his shop for a couple of reasons. One is this is not strong enough and not big enough for his truck. That truck of his, that Dodge truck, has got to be at minimum empty weight. It's probably around 65 to 7,500 pounds. I think it's a dually. So it's a heavy truck. So he'll want something, and again, he's not lifting the whole truck at any one time. If he tries to lift the side, that jack has to weigh, have a rating of a minimum 3 tons, probably more. But that's where my other jack comes in handy. It's 6,000 pound rating, it's a 3 ton. But it has a couple nice features on it. And let me just quickly kind of show that to you. I'll just move over here for a minute. And we'll just point it down here a bit. And you'll notice on this jack, there's a couple features for it. One is that it does have a nice locking capability. These jacks, by the way, are available anywhere. They're the Motormaster brand, which is Canadian Tire up here. It's similar to Sears. But the one I like about this one is that when you are in tight confines, like I was saying, even in race car pits, you got this secondary lever here that can help pull it up. So just to get to the frame, you're doing this, and that's something handy to have. And of course, it still works the normal way as well, but it takes longer. But as soon as you use this, it pumps pretty quickly, and away you go. But for Adam, the other problem is going to be is that swing on this lever here. Again, on big trucks. Now I use this on my Expedition and it's fine, but I think I'm not sure if his dually is a 1 ton or a heavy 3/4, but the frame rails are pretty high up, and by the time the suspension sags and everything else, that's something you got to consider on where you're going to put it. I do not recommend putting these jacks directly underneath an axle housing. You should be on the frame. It's the same for up front. Don't put it on the control arms. Find a place on the frame. And so this one's only, like I mentioned earlier in the previous video, about 15.5 inches in lift. And that's something that you've always got to worry about. And that's something, another thing, another reminder. Let me just show you on the race car again. See if we got it pointed the right way. Yep, we are. So I had mentioned, and again, I didn't mean to confuse you guys if you were, on looking at this jack stub. You can see that word. Why don't you just raise that stub? Why don't we just put this up? Oh, sorry. Why don't we just put this higher? Well, again, if we do that, that means the jack has to go up higher before it makes contact, and we lose some of our lift capability for the race car. If I put it too low, then it violates the rules. The lowest mount of the frame and part of the assembly of the car can't be any lower than what the rule calls for on ride height, which in this case is 4.5 to 5 inches, depending what track rule you're going to. So that's why this height is the same as the frame. And that's again also why we don't use other jacks. Like the big heavy duty ones is too tall. But we have to consider that every time we do that. On a truck, for the way Adam's going to need the use of a jack, get something that's heavy duty. The one I just showed here are pretty straightforward. And away we go. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, Adam. If you can afford it, based on your needs of your truck, definitely try to see if you can get ideally a 5 ton for some extra safety. And just the side lever is really handy to have just to get it up to the frame. It does not replace the big arm on lifting it up. And get something that, again, has pretty wide wheels. But of course, you get to machine those kinds of things if you want to. They are heavy jacks, but of course that's the idea when you're trying to raise, 7,000, 8,000 pounds of a truck. So those are just some of the things you might consider. Also, just make sure that the cup at the end is nice and rugged. And if you can do that, then you'll be fine. You want to make sure they actually got some lips here, right here, and so that you can get around the frame, get some grip. Because when you're raising this thing, remember, this jack's going to want to move a bit. This jack's trying to go this way a bit as you raise it, and therefore the jack will try to slide a bit, which it's supposed to. But you want to make sure that when you get grip on your frame that you're good and safe. Okay, so hopefully that that helps. And my name's Doug. Welcome to my shop. Our next video, I'm not sure when we're going to do that quite yet. The next step probably is talking to Adam and seeing where we're going to go with this. Oh, no, sorry, and one more thing I'll add to this one is the comments on an air jack. So again, we're talking about some real challenges with air. When we're making adjustments sometimes on these cars, installing things, just like this control arm which I'm about to put in this car, using air is just too difficult to get precise. We sometimes want to lift the jack just in increments. That way we can put shims into the control arm, and maybe that's a video I will do, control arm installation on these race cars. But no, we don't, air just isn't an option for that perspective. And I had also mentioned that we like a multi-purpose tool. It's used for more things than just lifting the car. It's for doing some of this tuning of installing of components, like control arms, even just jiggling the transmission alignment a little bit, or the rear end and the track bar. So air really isn't an option. The other thing that a lot of you guys have probably been questioning is, well, why don't we just get a bigger jack? Like I say, with dual pistons. They are heavier, they're more expensive, and I don't really want to go super low quality if I can. This one I happen to know the way it was made, so I stuck with it. And I've had to replace the seal. So again, it's not, it's not triple sealed or ringed. The tolerances are a little excessive probably, but again, that's what happens when you get a lower cost. We're not, we're not made out of money. We're not. I wish we were, but that's just one of the areas that cost is a consideration anytime we do these things. And the air isn't realistic. It doesn't work for us. And hydraulics just offers the simplicity of also being able to repair it without getting into a lot of knowledge about air hydraulics. That gets to be a bit of a challenge. The other thing too is air hoses. In the pits we're already using for our tires, but a lot of us are moving to electric guns now for removing the tires and stuff. I still bring air to the track in a big air compressor with a generator, because I use it for more than one thing. The air is used to fill the tires, the impact guns, but the quality and the way air works required on a race car for an air hose both inside the paddock area and on the racetrack pits, that's probably a little dicey. And the way these cars are getting soft in suspension, we don't want them slamming down right away. And we don't want to have the worry about a piston getting stuck, and that's one of the reasons I won't consider air. And again, Formula One is a totally different class car. They're not even running air in a lot of the Rolex cars, the GT3, 4, and 5 class. They're not running air. Only the GTP classes, GT1 and 2. So again, it isn't a consideration for us too either. It just adds too much complexity to the challenge. So that's probably a relief to Adam. But anyways, that's enough for this video. Probably need some editing in this one. There's probably a couple bloopers in there I don't want to see, but we'll get this out, and then we'll probably have some dialogue with Adam and go from there. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you real soon.